you will find that the dry mix product and those products which are being used for structural applications are totally different. So one thing that you would notice is that many of the products that we are manufacturing is customized to the requirement that is being there at site. Say for example, what we do normally is that we go to the customers rather than telling them this type of cement has to be used. We try to understand the call it type of concrete, and that is how we go about. Now, these are the cements that you would see that Ramco is manufacturing. Like say, for example, you could see ordinary Portland cement IS 269. Now we have got a new code for ordinary Portland cement. Earlier there was 2-3 codes were there, like 8112 was there, 12269 was there for 53 grade. So all these 3 codes have been combined, and now we have IS 269, which covers all different types of ordinary Portland cement. So that is how it is. Within the ordinary Portland cement, we have ordinary Portland cement 43 grade, ordinary Portland cement 53 grade. Then we have ordinary Portland cement 53 grade infra and 43 grade infra. Now the idea of having this type of cement is that sometimes customers, they blend this pozzolanic material like fly ash at site. Now when that is being blended at site, what happens is that they would want ordinary Portland cement. So in which case they also look at slump retention as one of the primemost criteria. See, ideally speaking, concrete has to be used within the minimum possible time. But what happens is that in case of ready mix concrete units, as all of us know, sometimes slump retention required is to the tune of up to 3 hours or more than that in some cases whenever there is a traffic jam. So we are also very sensitive to the requirement of customer in terms of the slump retention, and that is why you will find that we have got 43 grade infra and 53 grade infra, so that the customer gets sufficient slump retention in his concrete, whatever grade of concrete is manufactured. Apart from that, we have the Ramco Superfast, which is specifically used for all precast applications. When we visited customers, when we visited precast units, what we observed was that many of them were using the cement for casting these precast units, and their primemost requirement was a faster gain of strength. The formwork had to be removed as soon as possible. And then, as all of you know, when these precast units, say for example, if they are hollow block units or solid block units, they would want to have as many number of blocks per bag as possible. So ideally speaking, a precast unit is looking at from 2 perspectives. One is from the perspective of faster rate of gain of strength, and second is increased number of blocks per bag. And the third most important thing that they are looking is that whenever they make a precast item, the edge breakage should be negligible. So that is what Ramco Superfast aims at in terms of reduced breakages, in terms of faster rate of gain of strength, and in terms of increased number of blocks per bag. Amongst Portland Pozzolana cement, as per IS 1489, we have the Ramco Super Grade, the Ramco Super Crete, Ramco Super Fine, and Karthik Super Plus. In fact, Ramco Super Grade, as all of you know, that is the flagship company, flagship brand of the Ramco Group. It's a Portland Pozzolana cement with low heat of hydration and enhanced durability. But then what we noticed was that customers also wanted a high rate of gain of strength even in PPC. So we have this cement Ramco Super Crete, which is giving a high rate of gain of strength and at the same time low heat of hydration. So it's a very challenging proposition to have a cement which has both parameters in the same cement. But Ramco Super Crete gives you that. You get a high rate of gain of strength as well as a low heat of hydration. That is why we say that the combination of both, whatever strength is required, whatever durability is required, is there in Ramco Super Crete. So there were a couple of queries relating to that, saying that do we need to do curing and all that in case Ramco? Yes, we have to do curing, because without, as all of us know, any good concreting practices, without curing, you may not be able to get the desired properties in concrete, whether it is in terms of reduced shrinkage cracks or things like that. So curing has to be done. Then we have the Portland slag cement, Ramco Super Steel and Ramco Samudra, which is nothing but Portland slag cement as per IS 455. And we have the sulfate resisting Portland cement as per IS 12330, Ramco Super Coast. Again, this cement is used for specialized applications. Wherever there is sulfates in soil or in water, we go in for the Ramco superposed to the sulfate resisting Portland cement. As we were again emphasizing in the earlier webinars also, that whenever you use a sulfate resisting Portland cement, you need to do the soil testing very carefully to ensure that only sulfates are present, because if fluorides are also present along with sulfate, then the sulfate resisting Portland cement may not be the right type of cement for resisting sulfate, because sulfate resisting cement is weak in resisting fluoride. So one needs to look at the properties of soil and properties of water wherever the construction is going on, the underground construction work, and then determine the type of cement. Now, you would have seen that these are the 12 types of cement that is being manufactured. So, how do we go about making a questionnaire, to understand the customer requirement? So, the starting point always, as all of us know, is the concrete grade. You may need either M20 grade or M30 grade, M40, M50, M60, or M60 and higher. In some special projects, you may need a higher concrete grade. So, the first and foremost thing that we need to understand is that we need to be very clear about the grade of concrete. So the first requirement is the grade of concrete. The second is what is the slump required for that concrete? How much slump is required, whether it is up to 30 minutes or up to 1 hour or up to 2 hours or up to 2.5, 3 hours and things like that. Now for getting that slump retention, one needs to go in for addition of super plasticizer, what we call the chemical admixtures. So those super plasticizer has to be added. So third requirement which we look is after compressive strength and after workability is the slump retention, and thereby also try to find out what kind of chemical admixture one is going to add. And based on the type of chemical admixtures, we need to do the compatibility studies, because it is very important that we do a compatibility study of cement and chemical admixtures, because without that you may not be able to understand what is happening. So we need to undertake that study in a laboratory, and then the trial has to be done in a batching plant also. And it is always advisable that whenever we go in for a large casting of concrete, it's always advisable to do the trials regularly. So that is how we understand the requirement of the customer. Whereas for a small household customer, he may not have the facilities of, say, for example, blending it, etc. That is where he can actually go in for blended cement, either PPC or PSC for that. And there he may not go in for chemical admixtures. So those are the kind of things that we have got, and we can also see that these are the types of cement that we are manufacturing, and this is the different applications that we have got. And we have got various types of various kinds of project customers, who are undertaking different types of construction works, ranging from infrastructure works to multi-storied building, and under different exposure conditions. Some structures may be near the shore, some structures may be under the ground, and things like that. So based on that, we have various customers who are there, who have been associated with ITD cementation, Larsen & Toubro, and various durability requirement, various concrete requirement in terms of infra-state as well as in hardened state. And our cement is also approved in various institutions like the Bangalore Metro, the Chennai Metro, and the Delhi Metro. So these are some of the things. And then we have a Ramco Research and Development Center, RRDC at Chennai, wherein we do a lot of research and lot of mixed designs of various grades of concrete, ranging from M20 to based on the customer requirement. The thing is that, as all of us know, that this changes with the type of aggregates, with the type of sand, with the type of chemical admixture. So we do those trials at our research center, and we also do number of tests on cement and other blending materials. So you would be aware that we have been conducting this series of webinars over the last few days, and last 5 days we had this webinar specifically focusing on analysis and design of liquid retaining structures, which was conducted in association with ACCI Goa Center, and where the speakers spoke about the clauses in IS 3370 and analysis of containers, loads and forces, and ESR staging, computer modeling. I'm sure that this kind of webinars would be useful for all the construction professionals, and you would have got an idea. And in case you were not part of it, you could always go to our YouTube link or the Facebook live link, and you can see that you can have a look at the presentation. So that is how we have got, and I am sure that the speaker is already logged in. Mr. Ibrahim, you are there? The speaker who would be speaking on admixture, I think he is there.
Yes,
Hello?
I'm there.
Yeah. So, would you need any assistance in sharing the presentation? You can.
Yes, I think Mr. Suraj will be doing so.
Yeah. You have the presentation. You have the third icon actually, the share content. Can you see the third icon?
Sir, actually, I'll be dealing from Bangalore. So I will be running the slides, sir. We are just making an.
Fine. We have our speaker today here who would be sharing his experience. Mr. Ibrahim is there. So just before we go on to the speaker, let me introduce him to the construction professionals. So Mr. Ibrahim Sheikh is working with Sika India Private Limited as Senior Product Manager, and for the past 10 years with the concrete business. He introduced many Sika products and innovative technologies from corporate to the Indian construction markets. He developed admixture formulation for self-compacting concrete, high strength and high grades of concrete. So he has conducted training programs to employees and customers on admixtures. He is working with sales and R&D teams to fill product and technology gap in the market. He previously worked with Dubai Central Laboratory, Government of Dubai, and then after that Purulia Pumped Storage Project in West Bengal. So he's having experience in various kinds of concrete, and I am sure that speaker of today, Mr. Ibrahim, would be able to throw more light, and we will have a number of takeaways as far as admixtures are concerned. So over to you, Mr. Ibrahim. Welcome to this webinar.
Thank you very much. Actually, there is some connection or something, some issues there. That is why I have to connect through mobile. And then I would request Mr. Suraj to help me with the slides.
Suraj, you are there now?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? Can you?
We were able to see the slide. What happened suddenly? You can share the screen. Yes. We are able to see the screen now. Yes.
Yeah.
It's okay now?
Yes, I can see the screen actually.
Yeah.
Mr. Suraj?
Suraj, you can put your video on so that you can communicate effectively.
I will use the mic, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. As Ibrahim sir says, next I will change the slides as well.
Yes. Okay. So you can keep it on the first slide, shrinkage crack actually, shrinkage reduction. Go to the first slide.
Okay. Can you see the first slide, please?
Yes. Yeah. So thank you very much. Once again, very sorry. We have some connection issues here. So I could not connect through my laptop. And I've requested Mr. Suraj to share the slide, and then I will speak. This is actually a very bad thing happened to us from our side. So I just, once again, I would just like to say sorry to you all for waiting. And then this is, and like to thank the Ramco team. They have worked, the way we can show this slides to you, and we can present this presentation to you. So, as I said, the topic what I had selected is different types of special admixtures, which helps us, giving or increasing the service life of the structure. So basically, the concrete, whatever concrete we do in our normal concreting, we select the mixed design, we select the water to cement ratio as we use cementitious material, and we try to keep the water to cement ratio low as possible, as much as possible. Yeah, these things are one thing what we normally do in our day-to-day concreting. But then, yeah, there are special admixtures which are required. We have to think about, which also helps us, supports us um for increasing the service life of the structure. There are so many structures surrounding us. If you can see that the Bhakranangal Dam, that the Hoover Dam, that the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus in Mumbai, as well as few of the structures in Kolkata, in Chennai. There are a lot of old structures which are standing there for long time. So now it is our time that we should also try to make the structures which are, durable structure, so that everybody working to sustainability, because everybody nowadays they are working to sustainability. How, because our forefathers or the older people, they have made the structure which are standing for the time. So now it is our time that we should make durable structures, so that our future generation, they remember us, that we have made such type of structures. So as I said that normally, yes, we in our normal day-to-day concreting, we use the cementitious material, we use fly ash, we use GGBS, everything we do, we try to minimize the water to cement ratio, and we try to make as much as impervious the concrete. We try to make the structure, the microstructure of the concrete as sound as possible. Yes, that is one thing we always do. But yes, apart from that, because in certain conditions, circumstances, these things what we are doing is not enough. So we have to use special admixtures. So that's why I selected today three topics, which apart from our normal admixtures, as I said, we use super plasticizers. They help us in reducing the water to cement ratio, so that we have less pores in our concrete, because pores are the one which create all the problems. So we try to minimize the pores by reducing the water to cement ratio, by using fine materials. Okay, that we are doing. So even after that, we have to do certain, extra when the circumstance or when the condition is not so good. So we have special admixtures. That is why I selected these three topics today. One is shrinkage reducing admixtures, and then because the cracks, normally the cracks happen because of shrinkages, and then crystalline waterproofing admixtures, because when you have pores into the concrete, when you add crystalline admixtures, how they help us. So I will just throw some lights on that. And then corrosion inhibiting admixtures. So how I'll just give some details about these admixtures, like how the corrosion happens, what are the things which initiate the corrosion, what are the stages in corrosion, and how we can mitigate the current corrosion. Similarly, in shrinkage reduction, what are the different types of shrinkages? Plastic shrinkage, chemical shrinkage, drying shrinkage, autogenous shrinkage. So how they happen, and what are the measures we can take? We can take. So I have just a few slides on them, and then crystalline admixtures. How does it work? What is its function? So I will just go through that, few slides. So shrinkage reducing admixtures. The next slide, please. Yes, you can see this slide. Concrete cracks normally happens, early age, because of the shrinkages and because of the long-term shrinkages. So earlier shrinkage cracks, they happens, before 24 hours, like when the concrete is still wet, in the wet condition, or the concrete is still plastic. So this happens. And then long-term shrinkage, like drying shrinkage, thermal shrinkage. So that happens, long-term, like after 24 hours. So these are different types of cracks because of the shrinkages in early age as well as long-term ages. Yeah, Suraj, can you? Yeah. So the long term, greater than 24 hours, thermal cracking, okay, and then we have autogenous shrinkage cracks and drying shrinkage cracks. So if I'll just cover plastic shrinkage cracks, then chemical shrinkage cracks and drying shrinkage cracks. So what are the plastic shrinkage cracks? Plastic shrinkage. So plastic shrinkage of new concrete in the initial stage of setting and hardening due to water evaporation, the concrete volume decreases, resulting in a contraction of the concrete in every direction. And then chemical shrinkage of fresh concrete is caused by different volumes of the hydration products and the constituent materials. And drying shrinkage is the result of the slow drying of the hardened concrete. The quicker the free water in the structure decreases, the more the concrete shrinks. So these are the three topics I will just cover in my next slides. The few things about the plastic shrinkage and how we can mitigate the plastic shrinkage. So plastic shrinkage, cracking that develop in the surface of the concrete soon after it has been placed and while it is still in plastic state caused by the capillary reactions. So the reason free from the concrete evaporates due to temperature, wind, humidity. So these are the factors. So in the plastic shrinkage happens normally because of the water evaporation in the initial stage. You can see here the plastic shrinkage, they are generally parallel to one another and they are perpendicular to the direction of the wind. So sometimes people think that plastic shrinkage cracks are only aesthetic look, but you know, plastic shrinkage, if over a period of time, if drying shrinkage are happening inside over the period of time, and then if you have this plastic shrinkage on the surfaces, so this plastic shrinkage can protrude throughout the concrete. So that is why we have to take care of the plastic shrinkage cracks. So it is important. Now, as I said, that plastic shrinkage happens because of the evaporation of the water in the beginning when the concrete is still in plastic state. So what are the measures we can take? Okay, so these are the prevention we can do. Protect the concrete, moist cure it. Okay, lower concrete temperature. We can dampen the aggregate, reduce the slump. Okay, then erect wind shades, wind barriers, and we can do misting and fogging, dampen the subgrade and forms, especially when you are doing the PQC concrete. Then proper finishing techniques are required. Use of fibers is one of the things, and then use of curing compound. So these are the prevention we can take, like actually how we can prevent the initial water loss. So these are the prevention we can take. This is some video this from one of the road side where, you know, in the left hand side, yes, you can see this is one of the measure we do at the road project site where we spray the fog or misting we do. So when you do misting, normally what you do is we try to minimize or we try to increase the humidity in that area, as well as, you know, we try to keep the concrete moist so that the water evaporation loss is minimized, and then immediately after that you apply the curing compound. So these are the measure actually you can take depending on again the velocity, wind velocity, the evaporation loss. So immediately after you can spray the curing compound. So these are some of the measures you can take for evaporation loss, initial evaporation loss. The left hand side you can see this is misting. Okay, this is the graph nomogram we have. You know, we have been using this for a long time, but still, you know, on site if you go, people they don't use this, but this is a very good you know, effective graph nomogram you can use at site, and depending on this, you know, water evaporation loss, you know, in kg per meter square, you can actually decide what are the measures you can take. This is a very easy graph to read. If you go from the left side, you know, you have to find out the relative humidity, you have to have the air temperature, you have to have the concrete temperature, and you have to have the wind speed, and then you can easily you have to measure it from, you have to start from left box from the air temperature, you have to start from there, and then you have to go up relative humidity line, and then you come to right side, you check that what is your concrete temperature, and then you come directly down and see what is the wind speed, and then you go to left hand side, and from there you can easily find out what is the water evaporation loss. So wind speed, see, relative humidity, concrete temperature, air temperature, you can easily find because we have the temperature thermometer as always available with us. And then, yeah, wind speed, people actually think that a wind speed we cannot measure. So that is why they don't use this type of graph. But there are small equipment available, what we call them as an anemometer, very cheap. You can buy them like 1,000 to 2,000 rupees, and with very small things you can carry with you on the site. If you are doing some slab concrete, or if you are doing some road concrete or open slab concrete where the surface area is large, so especially in that area you can take this equipment. The thermometer is always with you, but the anemometer also you can take, you can carry in pocket. So you go to the site, you go to the slab, and then you know what is the concrete temperature, you know what is the humidity, you know what is the air temperature, and then you can find the wind speed by using the anemometer, and then from there you can find what is the water loss, and from there you can actually find that if I have this much of water loss, okay, suppose one day we are doing the concrete of slab, and then I found out this is my cause, this is my water evaporation loss, and this day today, when we found this water evaporation loss, we did not find any cracks, okay, only, and then you can just record it. So next time you know that up to this water evaporation loss at this condition, okay, I'm not getting the cracks on my slab. So next time again when you do the slab concrete, open concrete, you can use this, and then when you find that now it is cracking, so that is the limit. So now you can keep this record. If the water evaporation loss is this much, my concrete, the cracks are going to happen. So we have to take now extra measures. As I showed you earlier, extra measures means you have to spray misting, fogging, and spray curing compound immediately. Curing compound can be applied immediately. You don't have to wait that the concrete is set. You can use it immediately. After you have traveled the concrete, you finish the concrete, you can apply the curing compound immediately. So, and then sometimes you also erect the wind barriers, because the evaporation is also dependent on the wind barriers, wind velocity. So you can erect the wind barriers so that the wind directly does not touch your concrete. So these are the measures you can take, because shrinkage cracks, plastic shrinkage cracks are the major problems whenever we do the slab concreting. Next day you get the call from our customers that you have the cracks on the concrete. So this may be because of past water evaporation loss, and then we can find from this graph what was the wind velocity, what was the evaporation, what was the actual evaporation loss, and because of this evaporation loss, we found that this cracks. Of course, there are other regions also for the for flash shrinkage crack, but this is one of the reasons. So we can actually note down, okay, this was the evaporation loss because of this happened, and then the concrete shrink. So that was about the plastic shrinkage cracks prevention. So next is the chemical shrinkage. So we know that in the chemical, in the concrete we have cement and water, and then they react, hydration happens, and because of the hydration, we have the hydrated product. You can see the red one. The concrete, as the concrete hydrates, it forms the CSH gel, or the actual concrete, hardened concrete it forms. So what happens is sometimes the cement or the hydration of the concrete, because of the temperature or because of some cement, the hydration is very fast. Okay, there are some component which are jumping the hydration. Okay, because of that, what happens, the volume of the concrete changes. Okay, and then because of the volume of the concrete changes, chemical shrinkage cracks happens. You can see here the initial volume of cement and water, and then the final volume when the hydration happens. Okay, there is a reduction in volume, and this is because of the chemical shrinkage, what we call as a chemical shrinkage. So in the initial are also known as the autogenous shrinkage cracks in the initial stage, and then later stage the autogenous shrinkage cracks are because of the self desiccation of the water. So this is of the chemical shrinkage cracks. So how we can mitigate the chemical shrinkage cracks? So you can see here the volume changes when the concrete hydrates. So selecting a cement with low C3A content, high C2S content, selecting coarser ground or slow reacting cement, accelerate the setting time so that the concrete is stiff enough to resist the shrinkage stresses. Use higher amount of coarse aggregate to provide restraint to shrinkage paste and shrinkage reducing admixtures you can use. So normally when you use a higher amount of aggregates, because the shrinkage happens in the paste only. Okay, the paste cement, the fly ash and the water what we have, the shrink happens in that only. So aggregates does not shrink, yes, but some of the aggregates, weak aggregates may shrink. So normally, but we consider the aggregate does not shrink. So the paste, we have to consider the paste when if chemical shrinkage happens. Normally we don't easily we can see the chemical shrinkage happening, but if we can find out, there are some methods to find out that. Okay, so these are the measure we can take for reducing the chemical shrinkage cracks. Yeah. So the next is about the drying shrinkage. Okay. So drying shrinkage happens because of the internal factors and because of the external factors. Internal factors like construction practices, water to cement ratio, the cement content, admixtures, aggregate, elastic property of the aggregate, and the concentration of the aggregate, how much aggregate we have used. And then external factors like drying conditions, and then temperature, relative humidity, length of the drying period, air content, air movement, and theoretical thickness. So these are the external factors which affect the drying shrinkage of the concrete. Next, as I said, so you can see here from this graph, higher the water to cement ratio, higher will be the shrinkage, because higher the water to cement ratio, more the water evaporation loss will be there, because you know the certain amount which we use. Normally the water we use in the concrete for two things: one, for getting the strength, for maintaining the water to cement ratio, and second, the water we add for workability. So if we add water for workability, this extra water whatever you add into the concrete, this is going to evaporate, and when this water evaporates, it is going to leave the voids. So these are the voids, actually, capillary voids. These are the actually capillary voids which causes all the problems. So we have to we should try to keep the water to cement ratio as minimum as possible. So water cement ratio is one of the reasons. Then, as I said, okay. So again, the next slide is about the aggregate. The more the aggregate you have, as I said, normally we all know that in the PQC concrete, we use a maximum size of aggregate 31.5 mm aggregate, because from here you can clearly see that if you have large aggregates, you require less paste content into it. As I said earlier, the paste is the one which shrinks. So more aggregate, large aggregate size, you try to, when you have large aggregate size, more aggregate into the concrete, you try to minimize the paste content of the concrete, and when you minimize the paste content of the concrete, your concrete shrink less. So this is one of the reason. Next, yeah, this is a prediction graph actually given in Neville's book. In this graph, you can easily find out actually how much your concrete is going to shrink. You can see here at the left hand side is the percentage of the shrinkage. The right side, you have the cement content, and then from this graph actually you can see how much your concrete is going to shrink. Yes, this is the graph. Actually, you can see different lines here. The 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, and 0.7. This is the water to cement ratio, and then we have the cement content. This just to show you that when you have say 564 pounds per cubic yard, that means approximately 330 kg cement. Okay, and then your water to cement ratio is 0.4. You can see the left hand side, your concrete is going to shrink this much. And then with the same cement content, if I in the water to cement ratio, my concrete is going to shrink more. If I increase the water to cement ratio to 0.45, now you can see the shrinkage is approximately 0.39. This is again same when you increase the cement content also. If you go to the right hand side, so if you increase the cement content, okay, see the green line, if you increase the cement content also, now you can see even with the 0.4 water to cement ratio, the shrinkage is more. You can see here this line. And then, as I said, it depends. The drying shrinkage again depends on the water to cement ratio as well as the cement content. You have more cement content, that means more it is going to shrink. There is one more theory. Yeah, okay, next. So there is one more theory about the drying shrinkage. As I said, the capillary voids are the one which causes all the problem for everything. The durability is related to the pore content in the concrete, the capillary voids into the concrete. So there is one more theory, when you have a large pores in your concrete, so because of the capillary sorption, the capillary pores are going to have water in it, and then over the period of time, when the water evaporates, cracks happens. So this I can explain you in the next slide where I have I have some yes graphics here to show you. So this is the concrete. So when you have uh, more water to cement ratio, you are going to have this voids into the concrete, and when you have this capillary voids, it is going to have water in it, and then of course when you have water in it, it is going to evaporate. So when it evaporates, it forms a meniscus, uh, and then when it forms a meniscus, it has a radius of curvature, the van der Waals forces acting on it, and then what happens is the bond between the water and the pore is very strong. Because of this very strong bond, what happens? The water pulls the wall inside while evaporating. Okay, and then because of that, now you have the cracks in the weaker zone. If you do not have proper crack joints, construction joints, and then you have this concrete pulls in. Okay, and then cracks happens in the weaker zone. So this is one of the theory, because when you have large pores in your concrete, it is going to have water. Okay, and then when water evaporates, because of the meniscus develop, you have the radius of curvature and then forces. So how to mitigate this? One of the measure, as we know, we try to reduce the water to cement ratio so that we have lesser voids in it. We try to add cement, fly ash. These are the major fly ash based into our concrete. We use PPC cement. We try to minimize the water to cement ratio. Okay, we try to compact the concrete, make the dense concrete. Okay, that is the one major we can do to reduce the pores. And if you have pores, okay, then we can use a drying shrinkage reducing admixture. So what happens when you use drying shrinkage reducing admixture is, so you have the concrete, it will have the pores. So when you add the drying shrinkage reducing admixture, what it does is it reduces the surface tension. It reduces the surface tension of the water evaporating surface tension. So what happens? Of course, the water is going to evaporate, but now it does not form that meniscus, and it does not form that radius of curvature. So now it is not pulling the bond between the pore wall and the water is now very weak. Because of that, now water evaporates and then it does not pull in, and then that is why you are not going to have the cracks. So this is one of the theory, that is why we use drying shrinkage reducing admixtures, which helps us, which helps us in minimizing the drying shrinkage. Because of this theory, they help us, minimizing the surface tension of the water. And then of course because the pores are there, the sorption pores which are going to get water into it, it is going to evaporate. But when you have dry shrinkage admixtures, it minimizes the surface tension, reduces the surface tension, and because of that, even the water evaporates. Now it is not having that. So measures to reduce the dry shrinkage is, dry shrinkage is not a problem if concrete is free to move. Then if the concrete is restrained in any way, drying shrinkage will introduce tensile stresses, which if they exceed the tensile strength of the concrete will cause the concrete to crack, and shrinkage reducing admixture will reduce the shrinkage due to capillary water evaporation. So these are some of the measures. So we saw now plastic shrinkage cracks, we saw the chemical shrinkage cracks, and then we saw drying shrinkage cracks, and then we also saw how to minimize or how to mitigate the shrinkage cracks. So this is some of the experiment which we had done. You can see from the graph here, the first graph, red one, it is a reference concrete. This shrinks so much, and then we put the drying shrinkage admixture into 1%, 1.5%, and 2%. You can see how this helps in reducing the drying shrinkage up to 36%. Some of it we also found that it reduces drying shrinkage up to 50, 55, 60% also. You can see here this reading is taken up. Major reading has taken up to 2 years. So we all know the drying shrinkage happens only in the drying concrete when you have pores, the water evaporates. So we have taken this reading up to 2 years. From here you can clearly see that the drying shrinkage reducing the admixture, they actually helps us in reducing the shrinkage, drying shrinkage cracks, drying shrinkage and then drying shrinkage cracks. So this is one of the things. These are our products, Sika Control 40 and Control 75. So using the drying shrinkage admixtures or shrinkage reducing admixtures, you can because you are reducing the cracks into the concrete, and this is how this is one of the measure or special admixture you can use into the concrete for increasing the service life of the structure. So that was the one topic.
I'll take a minute to upload the.
Yes, if you have any questions so far, if Mr. Suraj is uploading, we can discuss.
Yeah, there are some questions I think which has been posted.
Yes.
What type of admixtures used to avoid shrinkage is one question that has been posted.
That's I told you. I told already that shrinkage reducing admixture we can use for reducing the shrinkage, the drying shrinkage crack. So yes.
Another thing is that which type of crystalline admixture is better to make durable concrete and minimize the permeability of concrete in water retaining structures?
Which type? I mean, there is only one type crystalline admixtures. In the crystalline section, I am going to show you that how does it work. I have that topic with me, so that probably I will try to answer in that topic.
Okay. I think those are the two questions which I can see.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah, those are the two questions. That's it. So in fact, you had covered on shrinkage because that is one of the most common problem that happens at site, no?
Yes.
And
especially the plastic shrinkage,
yeah.
When we do the slabs and all, next day, even within six hours, we can find the plastic shrinkage cracks.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Normally this is because of, our ignorance. We think that, we think that this can be repaired, so let it be. In the initial stage, if you can take care of that, it is better. So as I showed you, normally in the PQC concrete we do all these things, but for the slab we don't do all these things.
True.
In the PQC concrete we spray misting, we do fogging, even we erect the wind barriers at the side of the road, PQC road, and then we apply the curing compound immediately. We try all the things there, but normally on the slabs we don't do. Thinking that in the slab there should not be much problem, but again the condition is same at the slab, same at the road concrete. We are doing open concrete there and there also, so why not take precaution in the slab also? Then one of the, I showed you, the monogram is very important part.
Yeah, with the wind speed and all that, wind speed, yes, concrete temperature and all that. That is very useful.
Yes, very useful tool actually. And then normally people think that we can check the temperature, humidity, but how to check the wind velocity? So as I said, there is a small equipment available, what we call the anemometer. 2,000 rupees, or 3,000 rupees you can get it, and it is a very, very pocket thing. You can keep in the pocket. You carry it to the slab when you are doing the concrete side, and then you can measure the wind velocity, and then you can see what is the water evaporation loss. And at that particular day, if something has happened or not happened, you can just keep the record. With this loss, nothing has happened. That means yes, this is a suitable condition for the slab. If something happened, that means the wind velocity was high or the water evaporation was very high. So we have to take some extra measures like the misting, or like the initial application of the curing compound, or like covering it with the sheet. So this can be done. Okay.
Very true. Yeah. Correct.
Yes.
I think next phase is corrosion inhibitors you are going to talk about. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. So next topic is about the corrosion inhibitor. Again, corrosion inhibitor normally, the specification product. Especially we use the corrosion inhibiting admixture in the coastal region, or where we have a lot of chloride into the soil surface. So we use corrosion inhibiting admixtures. I'm just going to talk about how the corrosion happens, and then what are the stages, and how we can mitigate the corrosion. So, okay, so we all know that when we do the concreting, the concrete pH is normally between 12.5 to 13.5, and then as long as this pH is 12.5 to 13.5, passive layer is automatically formed on the steel, and this oxide passive layer is actually a protecting layer. So as long as your pH value of the concrete is between 12.5 to 13.5, the steel is going to have this passive layer, and then your steel is not going to corrode. But as soon as this pH value comes down or something happens, then this layer breaks, and then all the corrosion starts. Okay. So you can see here, these are the one Fe, FeO2, FeO24, Fe2O3. These are actually the protectors which forms normally on the steel when you have pH value. But as soon as this changes to FeOH2, these are the forms which are actually corrosion. So this happens because of the next slide. I will show you why it changes from this above four elements to below 4 elements because of these regions. You can see here availability of oxygen. Yeah, next slide. So this happens because of the availability of the oxygen or the water coming in, and then the chloride and the carbonation. So this protective layer breaks when water comes in, where oxygen comes in, when the chloride comes in, or when the carbonation comes in. Okay, they react with this passive layer, and then this passive layer breaks, and then the corrosion starts. You can see this picture here, left hand side, this is a chloride attack picture, and then right hand side, this picture is about the carbonation. See here, potential rebar reduction in carbonation is from 1 to 10 mm per year, and in chloride attack it is. So as I said, the causes already showed you: water coming in, and then oxygen coming in, and chloride and carbonation. So the chloride, one of the reason that it is from the internal sources, from the aggregates, from the cement it is coming in, and then from the external sources like from the environment. Okay, so this is our chloride, and then carbonation happens. The second thing is because the leaching which comes on the surface of the concrete, what we also call that the calcium hydroxide, which is coming in from the pores. Again, the pores plays very important role, as I said earlier. If you have a lot of pores into the concrete, again, this pores through this pores, the moisture which has the moisture, and then this takes all the powders out on the surface, what we also call it as a leaching. And when this comes, calcium hydroxide comes on the surface of the concrete, it reacts with the carbon dioxide, and then is formed the carbonic acid, which is also known as the chuna. What in general language we say chuna, that is or also leaching, and this is what carbonation. You can see from this picture here, you can actually find how the carbonation happened or to your concrete or no. So yeah, the pink picture, you actually use the phenolphthalein indicator. you put on the concrete, carbonated concrete, you can actually find whether the carbonation happen or no. So what is the problem of the corrosion? Is the rust. You can see here the volume of the rust is normally 2.5 times bigger than the black steel. So that is why this increase in volume, it exerts the pressure on the wall of the concrete. Because of that, the concrete falls or cracks happens. Okay. So now I'll just try to show you the corrosion cell, how the corrosion happens. You can see here we have the concrete and then we have the steel in it. Okay. So what happens is when the water comes in or when the oxygen comes in through the pores, or when the chloride or carbonation comes in through the pores, they come to the steel and then they react with the passive layer, the earlier passive layer, as I told you. They react with the passive layer. As soon as they react with the passive layer, an anode is formed, and as the anode is formed, concrete acts as an electrolyte, and this, when the anode is formed, the electron is released and they get absorbed on the cathode. The cathode is automatically formed and the reaction happens, and this is electrochemical reaction happens, and because of this now it's happening. Okay, so you have to have anode, you have to have cathode for the corrosion. So as long as this happening, the chlorides or carbonation or the oxygen is coming in, okay, the reaction goes on happening, anode and cathode is anode cathode oxidation reduction goes on happening, and then the rust starts gathering, and then as I showed you, the volume of the rust is greater than 2.5 times greater than the volume of steel, and then this exerts the pressure on the concrete surface inside, and then the concrete starts cracking, and then it goes on bigger and bigger and bigger. So this is actually what happens, how the corrosion starts when the oxygen or water or the chloride or comes in. Now, how to mitigate this? Okay, we can mitigate or stop this, or what we call we cannot stop this, but we can delay this process. Okay, by reducing the availability of oxygen and water. How? By minimizing the pores again. Then how we minimize the pores? By reducing the water to cement ratio, or by using the fine materials like the fly ash, GGBS into our concrete. We can minimize it, and then we can mitigate the anode and as well as the cathode. We can protect the anode as well as the cathode. Okay, so we have different types of chemical admixtures. One is cathodic inhibitor, which suppress the cathodic reaction. We have anodic inhibitor, we suppress the anodic reaction, and then we have multifunctional. So normally the anodic, because as I said, corrosion to happen, we should have the complete reaction. We should have the anode, we should have the cathode, then only the electrochemical cell happens. So even if you try to suppress one, that means we are breaking the chemical reaction, and because of that, now because the chemical reaction is not happening, oxidation reduction is not happening, the rust will not form. So that is why we have cathodic, we have anodic. So cathodic normally we don't use. We do is cathodic protection outside, and then anodic normally in the America, US, if you go, they normally use anodic inhibitors, that is normally calcium nitride based, and then we have multifunctional. This multifunction normally we use in India. They're also known as bipolar corrosion inhibiting admixture. They also called as mixed inhibitor. They also called as CPCI inhibitor, the concrete penetrating corrosion inhibiting admixtures. So these are the admixtures, normally corrosion inhibiting admixture we use in India as well as in the Europe. So I'll just talk about the multifunctional corrosion inhibiting admixtures because we use this a lot in India. So what they do, how they protect. When you add this corrosion inhibiting admixture into the concrete, the corrosion inhibiting admixture multifunctional, they have bipolar, okay, they have positive negative charges with them, and then what happens, they have affinity to travel to the steel only. When you put this admixture into your concrete, they are not going to react with anything. They are not going to react with the cement, they are not going to hamper your hydration process. What they do is they just come to the steel, they have the affinity to the steel, okay, and they will come to the steel, and then they forms a protecting layer on the steel. So what happens in the fresh concrete now, because of the pH value, you have one one layer already, and then over to that you have this extra layer, okay, which protect the concrete and which is very sound layer. This layer does not dissipate. It takes a lot of things to come in, then only it dissipate. That is why normally in the chloride environment in the coastal region we recommend this type of products. We specify this type of product because it forms this layer. And then in chloride environment, normally what we see is how this inhibitor shifts the chloride threshold. The chloride threshold is the quantity which is required for initiation of the corrosion. So when you add this corrosion inhibiting admixture, what it does is it shifts the chloride threshold. Suppose in earlier concrete, you need only 0.6 kg per cubic meter to initiate the corrosion, but when you have this inhibitor into it, now this chloride threshold will shift. This time it may require 1.2 kg or 3 kg for breaking this layer and to start the corrosion. So this is how we calculate the service life. Suppose 0.6 was required, okay, for initiation the corrosion, and that 0.6 will come to your concrete, say in 20 years or in 25 years. Now if I added corrosion inhibiting admixture, this chloride threshold will be increased. Suppose 1.2 kg now I require. Now you can imagine for 0.6 it was required 25 years. Now you require 1.2 kg to break this layer. The chloride you require 1.2 kg to break this layer. So now it will require 50 years to break this layer. So this is how we calculate the service life of the structure. This is how this corrosion inhibiting admixture, they shift the threshold, or what we also call that they shift the initiation period. Okay, they shift the initiation. As I said, there are three stages. One is initiation, one is progression, and one is deterioration. So when you add corrosion inhibiting admixture, they shift this initiation period. So this is how we actually calculate, the service life by 2 times, by 3 times. How many times this it is going to increase the chloride threshold, and then we calculate how much it is going to increase the service life. So this is the test in BRE lab, British lab. We are done to check, because some people ask whether when we add this inhibitor, whether this is forming a layer or no. So we had done this test to check, and then we found yes, it is forming a layer here. You can see here, semi-soft amino alcohol inhibitor film. So it is clear that yes, when you use multifunction corrosion inhibitor admixture, they increase the service life of the structure. They form the layer and they increase the service life of the structure. Yeah, Surajji, hello.
Suraj?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there is a break actually in the presentation.
No. He has sent in 4 parts, sir.
Okay.
So I'm just downloading the 4th part.
3rd part. Okay.
22 years long your study you have to just show now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So by the time he uploads it,
there are some questions on how to measure relative humidity and pH value. There are instruments for that. Yeah, you can add on to. Yeah.
There are instruments for that. You can actually find out. So you can find out. There are instruments.
Because pH, anyhow, there is nothing but chemical analysis we can find out, and concrete has to be alkaline, and that can be measured. And what do you mean by increased service life?
Yeah, as I said, see, increase service life by 1.5 times or 2. Like as I said, by shifting the initiation period. Suppose this was the initiation, like initially the 0.6 kg was required for initiating the corrosion. Now it requires a 1.2 kg. That means now for the 0.6 it took say 10 years. Okay. Now for 1.2 at least it has to take 20 years. Okay. So this is how we increase the service life by 2 times. Okay, for initiating the corrosion. So this is how what we call as the increase in service life of the service life.
How do you determine the dosage of corrosion inhibitor? How do you actually, the dosage of corrosion inhibitor, how much should be added in concrete? Are you able to hear me, Mr. Ibrahim?
I think issue with the connectivity again, sir.
Is it okay?
He should be back again anytime now.
So till the speaker comes back, there is an important announcement actually. We have our next webinar on Monday, which will start at 11 a.m. and it is on codal provisions on earthquake resistant structures. So day after tomorrow at 11 a.m. you can log in, but the speaker now, he will come back at any moment and he will continue with his presentation on admixtures. As all of us know, he has already covered the shrinkage compensating admixtures as well as corrosion inhibitor admixture. Now the third presentation is third phase of the presentation is almost. Mr. Ibrahim, you are there? I think Mr. Ibrahim's this thing, yeah. No.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So this is a study actually we had done, long time, because, normally we do the testing in the lab, okay, long-term test G109, where, and then long-term service life structure study also, like 10 years, 15 years available. So that is why we thought in in Zurich to do a long-term study. What we did is we cast some panels in near the AB, where we try to create all the conditions. Okay, so there was, because of the lack of long-term field data, most investigations were made in control laboratories. Most investigations were simulated with chloride solutions only, and most field investigations are limited to 5-10 years only. This is why what we did is we actually made some panels, okay, and those panels are still there. And the study is still going on to measure the corrosion. So next slide. You can see here what we did. We cast 3 panels with our corrosion inhibiting admixtures, Rogard, and then one with silica fume and reference concrete. And you can see this location is near the AB, where they spray the brine water. So we normally in the lab, what we do long term test is only use the chloride solution, okay, and then we try to find the current. But here we try to simulate not only chloride solution, not only chloride, but also the gases coming from the movement of the vehicles. That is why we selected this location, okay, where you have salt spray, where you also have the gases coming in. So that is why we selected this location. You can see here, okay, this near the AB in Zurich. So the location what we selected as the panel 22 years ago in the year 1995. So this is the section of the walls we have, L-shaped section. Okay. Next, yeah. So this is the positioning of the rebars into the panels. Next. This is the picture of when we were casting the concrete with the rebars, and then you can see here left hand side. This was the location, and we put the panels here at the same location here, and then what we did is we put some panels there, electrical panels, to measure the current, and then during the corrosion agency, what they do, they come every 3-4 years, they take the reading and they do all the investigations. They take the core out, they check how much the steel is corroded, what is the carbonation rate. So every 3 years, every 4 years, they come and they check it. So this study is still going on. So in 1995, when we started, we did some study after 8 years, and then next slide. In 2013, here this is about the control concrete. Control concrete. So in 1995, we cast the panel, and then in 2013, that means almost after 15 years, they checked. Okay, they found in the control. This is about the control concrete control panel. Okay, they removed the concrete. Okay, and then they checked. So you can see here in the control concrete, which was not having any corrosion inhibiting admixtures. Okay, the corrosion has already started. You can see here this bars left hand side, and then in the right hand side bars, they already started corrosion. Okay, see this is another picture, another look from the another location. You can see here a corroded steel bar. We also had some epoxy bar in it, just to see. So you can see here the bar and this panel without corrosion inhibiting admixture. This is corroded. Okay. This was after the 15 in 2013. Okay, and then in 2018, that means in 2013, the initiation has already started. Okay, initiation period, as I said, there are 3 stages: initiation, propagation, and then deterioration. In 2013, so initiation has already started, and then in 2018, again they saw this panel, control concrete panel. You can see in 2018 now the concrete falling has already started. So deterioration has already started here. You can see here the concrete started falling. See, you can see again here. These are the concrete which has fallen. So in 2018, after 22 years, the concrete already started falling. So that was about the control panels, that is without corrosion inhibiting admixtures. So same thing we did for we checked for the panel which is having corrosion inhibiting admixture. In 2013, you can see with the corrosion inhibiting admixture, the rebar was intact. There was no corrosion happened. Okay. In 2013, corrosion did not start. Initiation did not start. That is why again in 2018, when we checked this panel with corrosion inhibiting admixture, okay, not start the program. That means because the emission did not happen, that is why the propagation did not happen, and that is why the spalling did not happen. You can see this panel here after 2 years with corrosion inhibiting admixture, perfect. Some low range they found, some cracking around the overall satisfactory appearance. So up to this you saw that the control in 2018 it already started falling already started. But in this with the corrosion inhibiting, there was the initiation happened in 2013 to 2018, nothing happened. So we are still, the study is still going on. So we just want to gather some more information. So this is the only study available, for long term on site. We are doing it. Okay, and still the panels are there. We are doing the study. Using the corrosion inhibiting admixtures, the reference concrete initiated corrosion after approximately 8 to 9 years and 15 mm cover. And then after 22 years, Paragot 901 iron, that means the corrosion inhibiting admixture wall is essentially free from. It has pronounced effect on the electrochemical behavior of the reinforcing steel. It significantly reduces the current density in the car. It restricts the anodic as well as the cathodic reaction. Okay, that is why it is called a multifunctional, and the time to chloride induced corrosion is increased by a factor of 3. So using this, because it did not initiate, how we calculate the service life. You saw that in the control panel it had started in 2013, but in the panel with corrosion inhibiting admixture, it did not initiate the corrosion in 2013. So this is how we calculate the service life. So this was our product, the Ferrogod 901. So again, simultaneously we had started in 1995 long-term test. In the long-term test, lab test, there also we use corrosion inhibition. It increases the service life the factor of 2 and 2.9. So this is also just to that this corrosion inhibition, when you do the testing in the lab, this also replicate in the field. And then we did some tests in IIT Madras also. Professor Radhakrishnan in also mentioned that using the corrosion admission increases the service life of the structure by 1.5 to 2 times. So the helps us the service life of the structure. This was about the corrosion admission. Actually, this was the last slide. We still have not covered that crystalline admixture. Surajji, you have received that?
Yes, sir. Give me a minute.
Yes. So far, if anybody has some question, we can discuss. Okay, so this was the beginning of the, yeah, I'm sorry, because of the net issue, we could not, go serial wise. So this was actually the beginning of the presentation. As I told you already, this is the Bhakanangal Dam picture. And then we have the Hoover Dam next. So this is the Hoover Dam picture, and this is our Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj terminus. But then this is the picture like it is showing that intentionally, non-intentionally, we still make the structure which does not stand for time. So that is why it is high time that we try to make durable structure which helps us in sustainability. Okay. So as I said in the beginning, that is why I had selected these 3 topics which increase the durability or which helps us in sustainability. Okay, so durability is sustainability. As I said in the beginning, that there are different measures, better concrete mixes, use better quality control, lower the water to cement ratio, and use of cementitious material, better construction practices, and use of a super plasticizer. This will definitely help us in increasing the service life. Apart from that, as I said, we have special admixtures like the permeability reducing admixture, the shrinkage reducing admixture, and the corrosion inhibiting admixture. So the shrinkage and corrosion I covered. So this is about the permeability reducing admixtures. Permeability reducing admixtures are nothing but what we call as in our language in India, what we call them as waterproofing admixtures, Integra waterproofing. Normally in the US, they don't call it waterproofing admixtures because they say that you cannot make a 100% waterproofing concrete. So that is why they always call it as a permeability reducing admixtures. So permeability reducing admixtures are used in concrete. Now there are basically 2 types of structure we know, and the permeability is admitted because of that 2 types. But as per ACI 212, they say PRAN, that means permeability reducing admixture for concrete exposed to non-hydrostatic conditions, and then PRA, that means permeability reducing admixtures for concrete exposed to hydrostatic conditions. So based on these 2 conditions, we have different types of admixtures, or what we call them integral waterproofing admixtures. So one you are using above, you cannot use it below, but one you are using below, you can use it above. So based on this, the ACI specification, they say that if you have a permeability admixture which suited to PRA, that means for concrete exposed to hydrostatic conditions, you can use above. What is the difference between these two is above structure and below structure? So in both the concrete, we have the pores, but what happens in above structure? In above structure, the concrete is not directly in touch with water body. So what happens here? In the above structure, the pores, they get water through absorption only. But in the below ground structure, water comes through penetration. Permeability, what we call them, penetration, through penetration. So here, the water is coming through pores. So that is why we need different types of admixture here, and we need different types of admixture for above ground. So this is how they have defined in ACI 212. These are the technologies available. The hydrophobic water repellent, polymer products, finely divided solids, hydrophobic pore blockers, and crystalline products. So normally the crystalline is the one, as per ACI, they say that crystalline and hydrophobic, they are the two one which actually complies to PRA. That means permeability reducing admixture for hydrostatic, for the structure under hydrostatic conditions. So crystalline admixtures used as a PRA, as I said. Okay. So reduce water permeability into the concrete. They also help in reduction the absorption into the concrete, and they heal cracks up to 0.5 mm. So this is the benefit of the permeability admixture or crystalline admixture. Especially they use as a PRA. So what happens? What they do is, we know that we have different types of voids in our concrete. You have compaction voids, we have gel voids, we have intentionally introduced voids, then we have capillary voids. Now again, the compaction voids can be avoided. This because of the handling of the concrete, vibration of the concrete. But the capillary voids is again, as I said, because of the water to cement ratio, because of the fines we have into the concrete. So this capillary voids is the one. The size you can see. These are the one. As I said, are the problem for everything. For we discuss in the shrinkage reduction only. Also we discuss in corrosion inhibiting also, and here also we are discussing this. So this capillary voids. These are the one normally have the problem. So this again depends on the water to cement ratio. We try to reduce the water to cement ratio. We try to reduce the capillary voids. So when you have capillary voids in the concrete, what happens when you put the crystalline admixture into it? Yes. So when you put the crystalline admixture into it, now you have this pores or capillary voids. So this capillary voids is going to have water in it, and then what happens is when the cement reacts, the byproduct of the cement and this crystalline admixture and the water into the pores, they react and they form crystals, and they form the crystals in the pores and overall the concrete into the concrete, and these crystals they block these pores. So more of the, you can see here, this crystals they blocking the pores. They react with the calcium hydroxide as well as the byproducts and the moisture, and then they block the pore. They form the crystals of the concrete and they block the pores. So they forms and fills and blocks the capillary structure, small voids and micro cracks. So high performing when water exposure is consistent. So normally this as I said, used as a PRA. That means permeability admixture for a structure under hydrostatic conditions. As in that conditions, the water is coming in from the permeability to the pores. So when it's coming in, when you have crystalline admixture into it, this water is going to react with it as well as the calcium hydroxide or the byproducts available, and then they are forming the crystals. The crystals are permanent crystals and they are calcite. They are similar to the CSH gel only. You can see this picture about the crystals. They are forming the crystals normally in 3 to 4 days. Okay. So yeah, you can see here again, they grow over the period of time. The first block you see left hand side, and the right hand side top first block you can see, and then right hand side below, and then left hand side below you can see. They go on increasing as long as sufficient quantity is there into the concrete. As long as the water is coming in, you have the water into it and the byproducts, and they goes on reacting, and then the crystals are formed and they grow over the period of time. And this is how they block the capillary pores. And this is how they try to reduce the permeability of the concrete. Yeah. So one of the properties I said is the crack healing property. We had done some tests in the lab where we put this crystalline admixture into the concrete, and then we put some moisture there. As you can see here, it started, the crystals forming already started in 3 days, and then up to 13 days you can see already the cracks are filled. with this crystalline admixture and the reaction between the byproduct of cement and water. The crystals are formed and they already now block the crack. There's another study we did. In the next slide we can show you. We cast this wall where we put in the wall, we put the crystalline admixture, and then what we did is we cracked this wall and then we put water other side. Okay, you can see here after 7 days, the crystals started forming here slowly, and then you can see up to 12 days the cracks are already healed. So this is how the crystalline admixture they work. They react with the byproducts. And the important testing for crystalline admixture is the permeability reduction. That means the water penetration test. DIN 104, 1048, and EN 12390. This is the important test for permeability. Others are okay, related test. But this is the important test which we have to perform. And then you can see here, when you use this crystalline admixture into the concrete, it as per ACR 212 as well as we have done some trials, it reduces the water penetration to the concrete from 50 to 90%, even sometimes more than 90%, depends on the quality of the crystalline admixture and the reaction. And some of the important tests also we did for our crystalline admixture water vapor transmission test, where you try to see the vapor coming through how much vapor is coming through the concrete. If you have crystalline admixture, vapor transmission will be less. If you don't have crystalline admixture, vapor transmission will be high. And similarly, the moisture vapor emission rate test we did as per ASTM F1869. Again, in this case also, we try to keep the calcium chloride solution, and when you have crystalline admixture, less water will come out. The weight of the calcium chloride will increase, will be less. And then this hydrostatic pressure testing, where you cast the panel and then you apply the pressure up to 7 bar, and you see that this panel is standing that pressure. And then as explained you already, the water penetration test. So these are the important tests we actually to do. Or now normally these are tests which are done in the US. They have these specifications, but the one of the important tests is the penetration test. So these are some of the results what we had done in US lab. You can just go in the slide. Next slide. So yeah, this is our admission Sika Control WT200K. And I thank you all for listening to this presentation. I'm very sorry to the Ramco people as well as to listeners that this we have to do this presentation through the mobile and some adjustment. And sorry for the delay also. So now if you have questions, we can take.
I think thank you so much for the presentation. You have covered almost all the types of admixtures which would enhance the durability also. Ranging from shrinkage to corrosion inhibition. I think that should be a very good information for all the construction professionals. Some of the questions which they are asking you have already covered in the presentation, but some other kindly share type of epoxy resins and how to proceed for different types of ways of working is one question that is being asked.
I think this is the out of the presentation topic.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And another thing is that various concrete grades and all. See, one question was on concrete grade and mixed proportions for that. I think concrete grade and all, they will have to do the mixed design based on which you can determine the ratio of cement, sand, and aggregate. So that is what it is. Yes. I think apart from it, there are no other questions on that. So it was a good presentation, Mr. Ibrahim. Thank you so much for sparing your time with us and making this possible. And let me also thank all the professionals who have logged in for today. And I'm sure that this presentation would have been useful to all of us. So that we always need to look at how admixtures work, what is the purpose, and all that. So in those aspects, I'm sure that this would have been an informational presentation, and many of the tests that they have done and how to use it. So thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim, and thank you all the professionals. And let us meet on Monday at 11 a.m. for the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Once again, sorry from my side.
It's okay. Everybody. We made the presentation possible. That's very important. So stay safe.
Yeah. Some issue. Yeah. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.